Hi, everybody. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're so excited to celebrate our 8th anniversary. I cannot believe we've been here for 8 years, but it's been a fantastic ride. And I always look forward to this. This is one of my favorite times of the year. So thank you for joining us. We've got a lot of cool stuff on the schedule today. So let's hop right into it, okay? And yeah, I was going to take my glasses off to do this, but I can't really see what I'm talking about, so I should probably just leave them on so I can see your comments and be able to comment back on those. So let's talk a little bit about what we did. Quick year in review. I always like to get the bad stuff out of the way first, so let's talk about the hard stuff. Let's just say that changing out a pool and upgrading your deck, not the easiest thing to do. That was supposed to start at the end of 2021. Didn't quite happen. So as you know, we had to push that back. And yeah, so it was like March by the time we got that thing in there, and then getting everything set up and the new coating on the deck, and yeah, that was fun, and it turned out great. But man, it took some effort, and a big shout out to Nikki and Amy, who really helped us kind of get through that. Nikki, especially with the covering idea and just kind of helping us get through and shepherding us through that process. So thank you, Nick, for that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the rest of the folks here. But yeah, and COVID, what else do you say? COVID, it's still here. And it's still making things a lot of fun. But you know what? If the worst thing in our world is trying to figure out how to make the deck look good and how to make the pool look good, I think we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty well for 2022. So let's get off the hard stuff and let's talk about the good stuff. This year we met about 300 new folks that came to see us with their dogs, and we're really happy about that, and always glad to welcome new family members into our crew. Those were all word of mouth, because we rely on great folks like you to recommend us and our veterinary partners. So we didn't have to advertise this year, and it's not something that we do because we focus our efforts and our energies on keeping our clients happy, and they share with their friends and family. So we appreciate that. Thank you so much. You guys are great ambassadors. Now, we do only mobility stuff, and this year we put on nearly 100 braces, and part of our new product from Orthopets, the U-Pets splint that are semi-customizable. We put about 100 of those on last year, which is pretty amazing. We also fit about 70 dogs in wheelchairs, whether those were rentals or they were purchases outright. Just that number was amazing to me. We also had about 2,800 swims. So let me tell you, that's a lot of dog hair. And thank goodness that our filters do what they do, because that's a lot of dog hair. But we did it great. We worked out about 800 times here in the gym with our dogs, and teaching them and their pet parents, fitness for life, and how to keep going, and how to move and be able to do their everyday activities more comfortably. And these little fingers also did about 300 massages this year. So that'll keep your hands moving and your hands comfortable, let me tell you. But yeah, so it was exciting as far as the services we were able to provide and the time we were able to spend with our new dogs and their pet parents, and we really enjoyed that. Nikki and Kim and I talk a lot about how what else would we want to do. This is where we want to do, and we really look forward to coming to work every day. The other thing we stepped up this year was our commitment to Pima Animal Care Center, or PAC. We were their top fundraiser for the first annual Pets of Pima parade. You helped us raise more than $7,500. I think we hit $8,000. We're doing that again this year. More on that later. But thank you for that. We had 25 Mobility Challenge pets walk with us in that parade, which was so cool. And we had more comments about that part of the parade than we did any other part. The Friends of PAC crew were really happy that we participated in that. One of our client dogs, Brooke, was named the Pet of the Year in the Tucson Subaru contest. So we were really happy to help her be supported through that. We also generated about $500 in 70 sweaters for our sweater drive for PAC, and that was just in December. So you guys were rocking it on that. Thank you so much. And we also worked directly with about 15 PAC dogs, two of which you're going to be hearing more about in the coming weeks. Those are two Huskies named Luke and Colby, who were victims of a very freak accident where they had acid burns on their paws. So we are helping get them back up on their feet with new prosthetics, and those should be here by the end of January. So keep an eye on our Facebook page for more on that. We had a lot of dogs come from PAC that we did carts for and helped find them forever homes and got them set up for to make their adoptions. Those of you with cart dogs, you know that that's not always the easiest thing in the world. We've also collected food and toys and beds and supplies for PAC and for Cody's. And we've been working closely with 15 of our rescue partners here in town, including the Be Like Josh Foundation. They were just in with 4 dogs in quad carts, 2 of them with something called cerebral hypoplasia, which means they don't control their movement. Their cerebellum is not fully developed, and two of those dogs didn't have all of their frontal lobe developed. So there was a whole lot of movement going on in here when we were fitting those carts. So that was really cool. Some of our other partners, Arizona Cattle Dog Rescue, Desert Lab Rescue, Southern Arizona Lab Rescue, Paws Without Border, our friend Kim Kelly going across Mexico and getting dogs into Canada, getting new homes. So Kim, thank you for that. Cherished Tales, Pay People, Southern Arizona Golden Retriever Rescue, Tucson Cold Wet Noses, thank you, Kim. The Animal League of Green Valley, and the Pinal County Animal Shelter. We worked with a sweet little guy called Mr. Pibb, and I'm just going to pop him up on the screen here. That guy needs a home. So if you're looking for number 2, you want another dog in your house, he's a sweetheart. So if you're interested in him, contact Pinal County Animal Shelter on Facebook, and they can get you a meet and greet. He is a good kid. Okay, so that was basically our year in review, and we had a great time doing it, but I can't do that stuff alone. I could do a quarter of that maybe. So I want to say thank you and introduce all of the folks that helped me do that, and bring them up on the screen. I'd also like to thank their families, because these guys give me a lot, and their families give a lot for them to be here too. So I'm going to bring everybody up on screen. And Nikki, you want to come over and hang out with me? There's Nikki and there's Amy Flores, and there's Kim Dion, and there's Dr. Sally Rademaker. Unable to be with us today was Dr. Maureen McCoggan. She is here with us in spirit. She's hanging out at home this morning. So hi, Mo. Wish you were here. So these guys make it all happen, and I'm just so proud to have them to be with us. And I'd like to recognize each of them really quickly here. So hang on, everybody else. I'm going to take you off the screen. I want to talk about my girl, Nick, here. Nikki has been, 2022 was a great year for her learning and stepping up and really becoming a great part of our organization. She has blossomed into our cart master. So whether that's measuring, fitting, adjusting, she has really taken on that area and made it her own. And I'm so pleased about that for a lot of different reasons. But one, it's great to have watched Nikki grow into the mobility tech that she is over the last 8 years. Little known fact, Nikki was my first employee, and Nikki was the one I went looking for. So I'm so happy that you're here, and thank you. Give us a hug. Oh, thank you. Okay. All right. And then let's talk about Amy. Amy keeps us in a very clean facility. We appreciate that. Amy's been with us in a lot of different capacities. You started out in the front office. You started out taking care of welcoming folks and scheduling appointments and doing all of that. And you volunteered to take on a completely different role. And now you keep everything looking fantastic. In almost every case, you are the adult in the room, and we appreciate that. I said most cases.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that and your hard work in keeping everything looking good and acquiring emergency vacuums when we need them. Because you know that if you run a dog facility, you got to have a vacuum. And when it goes down, you need somebody to hop right on that. So thank you, Amy. I really appreciate your time and your effort. And you've turned into a really great pit sitter as well. So I'll put a little shout out for Amy. She does some pet sitting for us. So we refer our mobility challenge pets to Amy. So if you need any information on that, please feel free to let me know. But Amy, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Kim.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Kim is she basically is our vet and client relationship manager. And you didn't know you had that title, did you?
I did not.
She keeps everything running on schedule. She keeps the train going, and she keeps clients happy. She keeps the dogs happy, and getting the records that we need. She basically coordinates every aspect of your visit when you're here. So Kim, I know, goes out of her way to be just awesome up front, and I hear her. What, you got a dog going to bark over there?
I thought I had it all under control. Everybody was in different rooms, but no.
Oh, well, we wouldn't. Well, you know what? Half Moon is right there. So it's only a matter of time before he explodes in a bark. But yeah, I want to just say thank you and also mention that Kim is the president of Tucson Cold White Noses. She does an amazing job in helping find forever homes for dogs from PAC. Or providing foster and hospice for those dogs that shouldn't have to pass away in a kennel situation. So thank you for that. If you see a dog with the tongue hanging out, probably blind, missing teeth, older than dirt, and diabetic, it probably is going to go to Kim.
Yeah,
and don't forget your heart.
They are my friend.
Yes, they are your guys. Well, thank you for taking such great care of them. Appreciate it. And this is Dr. Sally Rademaker. You may have recognized the name from Sunrise Pet Clinic. She's recently retired or somewhat retired. I hear you've been called back into action.
Only briefly because of a pregnancy, and it was not my own pregnancy. So,
well, we're all glad to hear that.
Yes.
So Dr. Rad joined our team last year and has been a huge help on the Canine Mobility Resource Center, which we're going to talk a little bit about later. She's written some articles for us. She's done some talks for us, and she's going to do a discussion with us a little bit later about the power of lasers. So Dr. Rad, we're so happy to have you on board, and it's nice to have a BS meter and keep me on focus, that I'm saying what I mean to say and I'm getting everything right. So thanks for being there for me on that. And we'll be back to talk to you in a couple minutes. Okay. All right. And finally, I want to put a shout out to Dr. Maureen McCoggan. She is our online course developer for the Canine Mobility Resource Center. And she has done some amazing work with me this year, getting the Resource Center to where it is and what it can be. So she's our science editor and overall holder of common sense, which is pretty important. And she also helps me kind of stay within the bumpers on ideas of things that we want to share. We want to share with people and who are taking care of special needs pets. So, Mo, thank you very much. I personally appreciate your professional and your personal friendship that I have with you. So thank you so much for that. Okay, so you've heard me talk a lot about the Canine Mobility Resource Center. That launched this September. This has definitely been a long time coming, and I'm so excited to finally have it available because I think there are times when pet parents, you have a question and you need to do some research. And I, as the daughter of a librarian, I really want to provide a place where folks can do that. So I am going to take us on a quick tour here. So hold on one second. Let's pull that up here. And here we go. All right. So this is the Canine Mobility Resource Center. And this is, we have about 45 pieces of content up here today. We have special spaces where you can start your journey. Lots of different options for you. So this is kind of a launch. We have self-guided courses that will allow you to better understand kind of where am I? This is our basic course on how to pay attention, how to recognize change. These have different, some different videos, some video welcomes. Oops, that's a pretty face. Learning to pay attention, making sense of what your dog is doing. It's can be a deep dive, or it can just be a quick grab in for some information. So depending on if your dog has a particular disease, injury, challenge, anything from intervertebral disc disease for you folks that may have dogs in carts that have IVDD. Maybe it's a CCL tear. Maybe it's osteoarthritis. You're going to find some good information here, and also some information on gear, or how to teach your dog how to use a ramp. A lot of everyday management of how to work with your mobility challenged dog. So this is one of my favorite sections here, which is the overarching point of this site is that I want to help you take care of your dog every day. I love veterinarians. They're fantastic. They do so much great work in the community. They don't live at home with you, though, and they can't be there to tell you all the things you want to do. So I want to be able to do that. And I think this resource really does that. The resource also has some courses that allow you to kind of look over my shoulder into what I do with my dogs. And how that works. So, how do you walk your cart dog? Doesn't seem like such a big deal, but leash wrapped around the wheels a few times, you figure out it is a big deal. If your dog happens to be incontinent, how do you set up a space to be able to manage that? That's one of the main reasons that mobility challenged dogs are let go or released to a shelter, is not being able to manage the incontinence. So I want to be able to help you with those everyday things. And I think this actually does it. This also has a great, we have a mobility hut, which is where we kind of come in and talk about some questions that we have. There are questions about, someone had a question about the heart disease and how things work there. Cognitive issues, which are related to mobility, can be related to mobility challenges, is where we introduce new courses. So this is kind of a place to come and ask questions of your fellow pet parents of mobility challenged dogs. So I hope you'll head over to a loyal companion. learn.aloyalcompanion.com and take a look at that, because that is absolutely one of the major things that we launched this year. And if for those of you that are keeping score at home, you'll notice I'm not talking about the publishing of a book number 3, and that's because the book number 3 just went into the resources that you saw. The Canine Mobility Resource Center is the foundation for book 3, which will be about exercise, and we're going to be building out that section throughout the year. So we're hoping to really really get some good content up there. I'm hoping to be able to double that, the amount of information that's up there, and keep it accessible and easy for folks to use. So without further ado, I know you've all been looking forward to learning more about laser. This was one of the popular this is one of the most popular segments that we've seen, and something that people ask me about a lot during mobility consultations. And I found out that, you know what, I couldn't answer that question as well as I'd like to. So guess who I turned to? Dr. Rad. So she's going to pop on here. Let me bring her right up.
Hello again.
There we are. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about laser, because it is such a powerful therapeutic option for a lot of different dogs, but it kind of looks like a cat toy, it's got this red laser
It's
thing.
an expensive cat toy,
It's a very
$40,000 cat toy.
Yes, it's expensive and dangerous at times if you don't know what you're doing. So I would love for you to kind of talk us through. So what actually is laser? What is laser therapy? Tell us a little bit more in general about what that is.
Yeah, so I always have to look this up and read it off of a piece of paper, because what it stands for, oops, there I am,
There you go.
is the light amplification of by the stimulated emission of radiation. You see, it's like, this doesn't make any, there's too many extra words in there. So anyhow, it is low level light therapy, where the light penetrates into the tissues, and basically it's taking the energy of light, which is photons, and it's focusing all of that wavelength into a certain direction, all at the same time in a straight line, to get into the tissues and do its magic. And it seems like magic when you're looking at it. It's quite amazing. It basically is designed to help decrease inflammation, but not stop inflammation, and to help regenerate tissues. And it's really quite a magical tool.
That's awesome. It's, just knowing that the light can send off, it just sets off this chain of chemical reactions within the body that does what it does. I mean, that to me, I'm kind of a science nerd. Well, I'm kind of a nerd in general, but knowing that can then, release endorphins and helps to stimulate those injured cells and stuff. It's very cool. So that's kind of the, fourth grade physics level of what's happening, because I don't really want to go any deeper than that.
We could go into the graduate level right now if you want, but
I'd rather not. I was not good at that. Yeah. So let's talk about, application for, what would you use it for? So what kind of condition? So, I know that chronic conditions like arthritis and joint pain, what other kind of stuff can you use it for?
Well, you can use it for a lot of different things. You can use it for wound healing. You can use it for ligament injuries. One of the most common uses is for arthritis in the shoulder, the elbow, the knee, the hip. Disc disease is a big one that we use it for a lot. But I'm going to read you off on the laser that we have. There is a list of the kinds of conditions you can treat, and you pick one of those when you do this light therapy. And I'm just going to quickly go through this: acupuncture, arthritis, edema, swelling, lick granuloma, which is a nightmare, wound, pain, trauma, post-surgical, fracture, pyotraumatic dermatitis like hot spots, rhinitis, sinusitis, abdominal disorder, urinary tract disorder. I've never really used the laser for internal organ processes, but it's got that on there. Otitis, which is a really nice one when a dog has a really, really painful ear and you want to try and knock that down with a laser therapy, because the owner can't treat it, because the dog's too painful.
Right.
So hematoma, gingivitis, so you can use it in the mouth, anal sacculitis, perianal fistulas, stomatitis. I mean, I've used it for perianal fistulas, which is a real nightmare of a problem. So there's really a ton of things you can use it for, and it's very helpful in situations where you're limited on medications that you can give the patient.
Mhm.
So we're usually using adjunctively, but often the dogs are older, they can't handle the nonsteroidals, or their liver's not healthy, and so we can give them an option to help with the pain when the medication can't be given or isn't enough. So
Mhm. Yeah, and that's so helpful, because if you've got, a dog that has a liver condition that can't handle taking a nonsteroidal, like you mentioned, um, it's not that you don't have any options. You do. You have something else. There's another way to go. And when I talk to a lot of my clients, and they say, well, we tried the NSAID and it just made him vomit, or it made him, have diarrhea. That
right.
doesn't mean that you can't get pain relief and you can't get an anti-inflammatory. It's just going to come in a different way.
Right.
So can you kind of talk us through what the laser is actually doing, and how it's helping with pain relief? The vasodilation and making the inflammation decrease.
Yeah, and this is where some physics comes in, some biochemistry comes in, but what just this tiny, tiny little bit.
A little
But,
bit.
you're taking photons, which are the energy of light, you're passing them into tissues where that energy is absorbed, and it triggers a whole process that modulates. It doesn't change, it doesn't um, eliminate inflammation or the whole inflammatory process, because that's very important. But if you look at the name photobiomodulation, so we're taking photons into the biological organism and we're modulating, we're not eliminating, we're modifying and regulating basically what normally happens. So this whole cascade of inflammation that's very, very highly choreographed, gets modified. So we ramp up the good stuff, by decreasing inflammation, decreasing pain, and we ramp down the bad stuff. So we're getting repair and regeneration instead of inflammation and pain, or a better balance to kind of speed the process along. So it can block, it can um, basically stimulate some of the inhibitory nerves to decrease pain,
Mhm.
release endorphins, and are, the natural opiates that I'm not supposed to say that word, I know, but that are in the system. So it's pretty remarkable, and it's very well studied. That's one of the things that's interesting about this is many of these things have been proven,
Mhm.
scientifically proven, which I think is great. And so eventually the patient feels less pain and heals faster, and has a better quality of life, and all the stress hormones associated with pain and disease go down.
So, if I jump ahead a little bit, and we talked a little bit about the conditions that you would use it for and kind of how it works. So, how do you determine treatment frequency and duration? So, how often and how long?
Yeah, and I think most people who have a pet who's had laser realize it's generally not a one-time thing. Say that painful ear might be a one-time thing, or a wound might be a one-time thing. But generally, you're doing multiple treatments. How it is calculated is actually a computerized thing, that
Okay.
is in the laser itself. It's calculated by how deep do you want to go, what kind of tissue, is it
Mhm.
bones, is it muscle, is it nerves, how big is the animal, lots of variables there.
Coat color.
Um,
Yeah.
right, coat color, because the thing to remember is that what we're doing with a laser is we're applying a certain amount of light energy to an anatomic site of a certain size. And so that's calculated, but some of this energy is going to be absorbed by tissues that aren't damaged. So it's not going to necessarily, it's going to affect other organs as well. So we're trying to get the right kind of energy to the right place for what our goal is, without causing harm and without encouraging growth of harmful things, because we're dilating blood vessels, we're encouraging growth and repair, and we don't want to encourage that in, say, valley fever or say a tumor. So it's very specific what we're looking for.
And then as far as like the number of sessions, we had a question here. How often should it be administered, or what kind of elements go into that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And for the most part, we have a pretty good understanding of what disease processes need for the laser to really do its thing in terms of frequency of treatment or numbers of treatments. A lot of it has to do with the response of the individual patient. Okay. So if we think that a dog who has bulging disc and nerve pain and muscle pain is going to be treated, first of all, we're going to see if we get some response on the first treatment, and then we'll figure out a protocol twice weekly, and then gauge it based on the response of the dog. We're not here to do a treatment over and over again that doesn't do any good.
Right.
And then there are many of the more chronic processes where we have sort of dogs that come in every 2 weeks for what's called a tune-up. And so much of it is subjective. I mean, it's not like we're putting these animals on forced plates to see how much weight bearing they're doing. You're watching them at home. You're seeing, do they lay more comfortably? Are they more engaged? Do they want to do things? So we're relying on the owner to tell us, pet owners, to let us know, are we helping?
And that's where learning to pay attention and knowing what the baseline is and recognizing change in your dog becomes really important. So practitioners like you can adjust treatment levels, frequency, duration, strength, things like that.
Right. And when you think about the cost of a bottle of Rimadyl, and you think about the cost of 3 laser treatments, you might be kind of equal, or you might save a little money. Not that money is the thing, but
it's a thing now.
Right. It definitely is a thing. There's no question about it. And the effects of the treatment are basically cumulative, except for in those single events of just trying to calm something down, so then you can manage it another way. So plus, it's such a great photo op,
Oh, with the goggles.
The dog, the owner in the goggles, and it's Christmas card stuff, really.
It is Christmas card material, that's for sure. So let's talk about what goes into a session then. So you mentioned that everybody in the room needs to be in goggles.
Yep.
And and you're going to cover all the shiny surfaces. So what can you kind of take us through what the rest of that is like?
Yeah. So the goggles obviously are for protection, because these are class 4 lasers, and it's not like shining a flashlight. Hi, Helen. She wants some laser therapy.
She does.
And we cover the metal surfaces because light can be reflected and then scattered, and we don't want to have that happen. So we have typically, if this is a repeat performance type of a treatment, we already have the laser set for the protocol, and these are very specific. If you want to look on the website here for that actual talk that you and I had, it is gauged by weight, by coat color, by hair color, and then body part, very specific to body part. So then the laser itself, we pick the proper attachment head, which is either something that's going to touch the skin, which is in most cases, or not touch the skin, for instance, after we do a spay or some surgical procedure and we want to laser that incision. We're not going to lay that laser right on the incision. We're not going to cause pain in that way.
Mhm.
And the attachment head really is a matter of how much power are we trying to emit to be absorbed by the patient. And then the attachment head is moved around a location in order to cover a certain surface area, and
Mhm.
also in order to avoid potential discomfort if it heats up a little bit, because it will,
Mhm. Mhm.
especially if you leave it in one place.
Yeah, so there's like a pattern that because it's normally a technician will normally do it, veterinarians will do it on occasion, but there's
The
a pattern
technicians
that
are better.
yeah,
They
and because they do it more, right?
Yeah, and they love
Um,
it. They love
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Um, when they're running, it's almost like a different pattern they're going, so they're not going over the same place multiple times. Um,
It would
um,
be sort of like a surgical scrub, you start at the outside and you work your way in, or, vice versa. So yeah, it's designed to cover an area without focusing on a single spot.
okay, and it's like what treatments are what, like 3 somewhere between 3 and 10 minutes depending on
Yeah,
how
it depends, because a lot of patients are getting more than one location treated, but you're hardly ever going to have that laser on one spot for more than like 3, maybe 4 minutes, depending on the size of the spot,
okay.
basically.
Alright, so we had another question about the tumor. Christina wants to know, do you think about whether there might be a tumor in the area before you do it?
We always do. We
Always
always
do.
think about that. And of course, if we have an undiagnosed mass in the site that we want to laser, then we're probably not going to do that unless we know it's not cancerous. If
Mhm,
we're doing something in the spine, we want to feel confident as we can that this is a disc problem and not valley fever, for instance, or a
mhm,
tumor. And
mhm.
so, and if we're lasering the spine, the kidneys aren't too far from there. We want to feel confident that there's nothing like a kidney tumor or something along those lines. So
Okay,
we specifically avoid things where we're going to encourage the growth of something bad.
okay. And then we had one more question about, when you know you wanna use it. So, there's no really diagnostics involved. This is really more hands-on, a feeling for you as far as the use of laser as a therapeutic, as an element, right? So
Right. But if she's wondering, what do we have to do before we decide to do
yeah.
laser, then
Mhm,
yeah, x-rays, sometimes blood work. We will sometimes have blood work for a valley fever patient and not have x-rays. But there are things you typically are going to want to do before you grab the laser if you're going to
mhm.
be um, doing something where there might be a pretty long list of possible causes.
Right, so you're gonna do some rule outs. You're gonna rule some things out before you grab for it.
Right,
Um,
right, and
yeah,
we certainly wouldn't for instance, we don't wanna, laser a shoulder and find out that there was an osteosarcoma under there.
right. That's exactly where I was going, except I was gonna go with the forearm. But
Yeah,
yeah,
right,
okay. So it's all, it's just like, selecting which maybe medication you're gonna use. You're gonna wanna make sure there aren't any contraindications or reasons that you shouldn't be doing it before you bring it out. And that's all part of the clinical reasoning that you guys go through before
right,
you make that decision.
and the history that we get from the owner and what they're
Right.
observing at home. I mean, that's, like, the biggest thing. We're smart, but we're only as smart as what is provided to us by very observant owners like the people who are watching today, so.
Exactly. So you don't hear it just from me. You're hearing it from an actual real live veterinarian who not only plays one on TV, but actually is one. Pay attention, provide a good history. And I'll put on a little plug for the resource center. There are plenty of materials on there that will help you do that so you don't have to kind of make it up. But at its foundation, before you go in for your veterinary appointment, you should have a list of things written down that you take in with you. this is why
Yeah.
you're here. This is what I've seen. This is what's changed over the last week, 10 days, 30 days, whatever it happens to be. What are the changes I'm seeing? And that could be, I can't tell you how often I look at poop just to make sure that, nothing's changing internally. I'm constantly watching Helen's gait and Andy's gait. Your veterinarian only knows what you tell them and what you see
what
in
you
the
see.
office. So
And if there's a kid in the room, ask the kid, because they're always going to tell you.
that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
That is exactly right. And they're probably the ones that spend the most time with the dog anyway. So, okay, awesome. Well, thank you
Absolutely.
again. As
Thanks,
always,
everybody.
we had a great time.
Thank you.
And go enjoy the rest of your Sunday afternoon, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you. All right, bye. Okay, so I always love talking to Dr. Rad. She's so much fun and is just a wealth of information. So thank you for all those great questions. Keep those coming. We can get answers for you if you think of something now that she's gone. Please put them in the comment section, and we'll get answers for you. So now, I know you've been waiting and you're very excited about this. We are going to go into some enrichment activities. Nikki, who is our enrichment captain, she is fantastic with this stuff. She's much more creative than I am. And that's why we complement each other so well. So thanks, Nick. All right, so we're going to switch over to the game cam here real quick. And Nikki's got a couple of activities for you today. One is she's going to show you how to play multiple games with cups. And she's also going to teach you how to play spin the bottle, and not that kind of spin the bottle. You have to wait for it. We're going to show you some different ones. If you'd like instructions on how to put these things together or how to play, make sure you IM us. Or you can type games in the chat area, and we'll get in contact with you to get you the instructions. We'll get those written down and sent them over to you. So let's head over to the game cam and see how Nikki's doing. It looks like she's got some company over there. Hold on. All right, there's Nikki. How are you doing?
Hi, everyone.
Hey, oh look, we've got Helen and Half Moon and all kinds of folks.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start with the spin the bottle game. So a couple things you need. You need a couple bottles. These ones I've already drilled the holes in so that they go through the tension rod. You need a tension rod and treats. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna drill some holes in the bottle. I cut these by warming up an X-Acto knife and then cut the circles out. So what you're going to do is cut the circles out, put the rod through the bottle. I made a couple here. All different sizes. And then we're going to find a doorway to put it in. And where we want to put it is about the elbow height or lower of the dog. So the size of the bottle is really going to depend on how high the rod needs to be for your dog, and the fact that it needs to be able to spin all the way around for the treats to come out. It would help if I put the treats in there. So, details.
Yeah, well, Andy's going to help you.
So you're going to put the treats in the bottles. You can do that before or after you put the bottles on the rod. And then the point of the game is for your dog to learn how to knock the bottles around the pole so that the treats come out of the bottle. You gotta let Kathy have some. If you're having trouble getting your dog to be engaged in this, if your dog knows something like shake, the command shake, or to paw at something, you can start with that to get them to start hitting it, to get it to go around the pole and tip over. The other thing you can do is kind of start by helping them tip it over and then trying to get them to hit it just the last bit to get that treat to come out.
And then for nose dogs, you would hold it in front, like do a touch in front. Yeah.
So, and if your dog is more of a nose dog than a paw dog, I would start it a little higher up for sure, and then try to get them to touch just the very top of it and get them to get that treat to come out, and then very slowly not hold it as much for them so that they get the idea of the game that it needs to be upside down for that treat to come out.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So different size bottles for different size dogs, right?
Right. Or we have this is just a little Tupperware container for smaller dogs.
Helen, that's not you.
So I'm going to take all these guys off. And then what I did with this is I put a hole in the Tupperware container. And then I also put some holes in the lid so that the treats don't all come out at one time. Put the rod through the Tupperware container. And then we can put it really low for the smaller guys so that it has enough clearance to go around the pole. So that would be short enough for Half Moon and Andy to do it if they wanted to try to learn how to do that.
Yeah, I think they would probably tear it apart. But so if you have, let's say you have a bigger dog, is it going to change the size of the tension rod?
So I would say you might need more of like a shower curtain size rod for a bigger dog or a very rambunctious dog because they might knock this little guy off. Just remember when you do that, you're going to need a bigger bottle so that you can put the bigger holes in it because it still will have to fit over the rod.
And then what do you put? Do you put something between the bottles to keep them from running up into each other?
Oh yeah, if you have multiple bottles and they keep running into each other, what you can do is you can either wrap some tape, put it where you want it, then wrap some tape or a rubber band or some sort of barrier between the next bottle so that they don't keep running into each other when they spin.
Got it. Okay. That's pretty cool. And then bigger holes mean more stuff comes out.
Oh yeah,
Right.
So that's a good point. So bigger treats can go in the ones with bigger openings, but also more treats are gonna probably come out at one time with the bigger openings than the smaller openings. So starting with something with a bigger opening might be a little bit easier for most dogs and a little bit more rewarding because they kind of get a jackpot every time it turns over instead of one treat at a time with the smaller opening.
Those two really want jackpot 24/7. Okay, So we're going to move game cam. Hold on, everybody. If you get vertigo, we're about to move the camera. Hang on. Here we go. We're moving. Game cam on the move. Okay,
Yeah.
So let's talk about the cups.
All right, so what I have here are just 3 plastic cups from the dollar store. So nice, easy game. So what you need are the 3 cups and some treats. So one of the games you can do is the shell game, which most people know about. So what I'm going to do is turn all these cups over. I'm going to put a treat under just one of the cups with my dog watching. Put it under the cup, and then you're just going to let your dog figure out that they need to knock the cup over to get that treat. You can do that by kind of tipping it over for them. You can do that by just kind of cueing them to either touch it with their nose or their paw. And we want them to be able to knock that over so that they can get that treat. Once they get good at that, what you can do is put the treat under the cup either while they're not watching or while they are watching, put the treat under the cup and then slowly move them around like the shell game so that they have to figure out where that treat was after you move the cups. There you go, buddy. Or you can just cheat and give Half Moon a treat.
Exactly. Do you want to try one with Andy up there?
Oh, sure. You want to try that, buddy?
Or Happy will do it too.
You want to do that? Okay, come. Gotcha. Okay,
Just do the starter and I'll watch him.
there we go, buddy. All right, so now that he's here watching me really closely, because he likes these chicken liver treats, I'm just going to get the treat, put it under the cup, and then cover it, and then we're going to leave it there.
Where's
So, where's the treat at?
Oh
There it is.
that's
Here it
it.
is.
Get it. Get it.
Come on, buddy.
You want
So-
to tip it? Go ahead and tip it.
So we're gonna move the other cup so that he has a little bit of room to do this. I'm gonna tip it up a little bit so he can see so that he can smell that the treat's underneath there. Come on. There you go. Good boy.
Oh,
Good job.
Okay.
Okay, come here. Look.
Tip. You can do it. You can do
There
it,
you
bud.
go. Come on.
Got it?
There
You
you
smell it under there, don't you? Huh? Yeah. Oh, there
Oh,
you
there
go.
you
Good
go.
boy.
Good boy. So I did help him a little bit, but we wanted him to be successful. And then eventually what we would do is just help him less and less.
Right, bud?
That was a good boy.
Good work. All right. Good demo, kiddo.
So that's the shell game. Another thing you can do with the cups is you can stack them and they have to pull the cups apart to get it. So to do that, you either want to start with a real big treat so they're easier to get apart, or you can take a paper towel, kind of crumble it up a little bit, put it down in there, put the treat on top or in it, and then stack another cup. So that this way they're nice and easy to pull out for your dog to learn the game. As they learn that game, you can take the paper towel out so that it's harder to get this cup out from the other one when they try to get it. Okay, and then another game, it's kind of similar to the shell game, except there are more cups and they get treats under all of them. So it's just kind of like a hide and seek kind of game. So what you're gonna do is just scatter a bunch of cup treats around, cover each one with a cup. There we go. And then just let your dog, oh, you can get that one? Have fun. Figure out where they all are. They just have to knock them over. So again, you have to kind of teach them how to knock them over. But then they get a treat every time they knock those over. You can do this by scattering them around a whole room, around your yard, wherever you have some open space. And then you can make it more challenging by not putting treats under each cup once they get the game, or by making the cups a little bit harder to find, putting them next to a piece of furniture, putting them under a chair, that kind of thing, so that they really have to work at this puzzle to figure out how to get that treat from underneath there.
Half Moon is all about that one. Those are awesome games.
So, yeah.
You've got my kids' attention.
And you pretty much have, these things around your house, or you can get them pretty cheap at the dollar store, or something like that, so that you can do it low cost enrichment, but also readily accessible materials.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Thank you, Nikki.
Bye. Good job.
Okay, that was a lot of fun, huh? I love those games. And they're so cool because they're just easy, that you can use stuff that you have at home. You don't need fancy puzzles, and those are fun, but it's if you've got you need a last minute thing, or you just want to hang out on the living room floor with your dogs. This is a great way to do that. Okay, so we are now coming to that point where I'm going to bring Kathy in, Kathy Burke. If you've ever been to any of our open houses when we had them prior to COVID, she used to make a delightful dog cookie buffet, and they were amazing. And anyone who has been to those will definitely remember those. She is my baker and my beloved wife, and so amazing in so many ways. So I'm going to bring her onto the stream here. Hi.
Hello.
How are you doing, babe?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Make sure you're talking up for me, okay?
Okay.
All right. Okay, so let's talk about what you're going to make today, and walk us through your cookies, if you would, please. Oh, and you are going to give us some recipes, right? That people can get.
You bet. The recipe that I'm going to demonstrate for you today is the one that I have made more than any other. It was the first one that I tried and really loved. It's from a website called dogtreatkitchen.com, and it is the gingerbread bones. If you've been to any of those previous open houses, you've definitely seen these cookies in many, many, many forms. So in my bowl here, I've got 3 cups of whole wheat flour, 2 tablespoons of ground ginger, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and half a teaspoon of ground cloves. And I'm just going to mix the dry ingredients together. You don't have to sift the flour. If you're a hardcore baker and you like to weigh things, you can certainly weigh the flour ahead of time, but just be aware that different flours can have different weights. If your dog is allergic to grain or you don't feed them a grained diet, you can use other things like garbanzo bean flours, buckwheat flour, since buckwheat is a grass, not a wheat. So you can try other flours, but I would always make a recipe the way it's written the first time and then see if you need to make any modifications. So I'm going to set the dry ingredients aside for a moment. Here I have a liquid measuring cup with a half a cup of water, a half a cup of molasses, and a 1/4 cup of olive oil. Now, I don't know if you can see this here. Kate, you'll have to tell me if
It's
the
separated,
layers
right?
are visible.
Yeah, the
I
oil's
put
on
the
the
olive
top.
oil in first,
Oh, wow.
and it's floated up to the top because each of these liquids has a different weight. So they're gonna, that oil and water don't mix. Well, oil, water, and molasses don't mix either. So we're gonna give them a little help before we put them in with the dry ingredients. So I'm just mixing these until they get kind of a uniform color. And the main reason I'm doing this is that the flour is going to stick to each of these ingredients differently. If they all went in separately, it would not mix well. And I'm mixing this by hand purposely because although when I'm making large quantities of cookies, I prefer to use a KitchenAid stand mixer, or sometimes even a handheld mixer, the ones with the circulating beaters. You really don't have to have that equipment to make these cookies. You just need to be able to stir that together. So now it's uniformly brown. And I'm just going to set this back here and pour the liquid ingredients into the dry. And I want every last drop of this moisture. So I'm going to use my spatula to get every drop and then stir. And I'm using what's called a Danish dough whisk, but you could do this with a wooden spoon. You could do this with a spatula. Probably wouldn't be a good idea to use a fork or something like that. I think you want something a little sturdier because this, you can see this dough is pretty stiff by the time I'm getting everything mixed in.
Yeah.
And you want to mix it until there's no clumps of flour visible. One of my other favorite things about this recipe is that I don't need to put flour on my rolling surface. It's a sticky dough, but it doesn't usually stick. Of course, watch today, it's going to stick on me. But I like being able to use different cookie cutters where you can see the detail. I don't know if you can see the woof in here.
Oh,
I want to
yeah.
be able to see that crisply. And then I have another one that has a dog face in it. If you have to use a lot of flour when you're rolling out the dough, you lose some of that detail.
Okay.
So I'm going to just take about half of this dough so that it's a little easier to roll out. And I'm going to form it kind of into, you can sort of get it started, get it into like a flat disc.
It looks like Play-Doh.
It's not sticking to my hands. Yeah, it's got the texture of Play-Doh. So I'm going to just throw it down on my rolling mat. I'm rolling out on a silicone mat. You can do it directly on your counter if you have granite or marble countertops. I like to do it on this mat because I don't want to have to clean up as much in the kitchen. It's easier to just take this when I'm done, throw it in the sink. Just using a regular rolling pin. And depending on how thick you roll this dough, the recipe actually suggests a 1/2 inch, which is pretty thick. If you think about a milk bone or some of the commercially available dog treats, they're pretty thick. I like to do this between 1/4 and 1/2 inch. But if you want your treats to come out on the softer side, leave the dough thick so that when you bake it, it doesn't dry all the way through to the center. If you need your treats to be extra crunchy, the thinner you roll the dough, the crunchier they'll be. You can also manipulate the crunch and softness level a little bit by how long you bake them. But and some combination of dough thickness and time baking will determine that. So
And then if you keep them thick though, it's gonna affect how long they keep, right?
yes, some recipes will tell you that they can be kept at room temperature. Others will say they need to be stored in the refrigerator. If it's thick and you can easily break it in half, those probably need to go in the refrigerator, because if they're soft enough to break, depending on the ingredients that are used, if you've got egg or dairy or any kind of animal product, you definitely want to keep those in the refrigerator.
Mhm.
One of our dog's favorites is a liver brownie. They're disgusting to make.
They're
Yeah,
nasty.
they've thrown me off of really liking to make red velvet cake because the batter looks a little too much like that. But so I don't know how closely you can see how thick this dough is, but I've got it at about 1/4 cup. Now, a 1/4 inch, what to use for cookie cutters? I brought every bone that I have, and I probably have more dog bone cookie cutters than most people. But you don't have to use a traditional cookie cutter. If you don't have any, you can use a pizza wheel and just cut the dough into pieces. If you have a glass, you can just turn that upside down and use that as a cookie cutter. I'm going to do some of these dog bones that say woof. Hopefully you'll be able to see how the indentation, and it comes out really clean. Another common problem when you're making cookies, at least cookies for people, is that the dough tends to stick, and you have to keep a little bit of flour on the side, constantly introducing more flour to the surface of the dough, and then you get that kind of cloudy cast. So I'm going to do a few more woofs. I'm trying to keep the cookie cutter as close as I can to the last shape that I cut so that I have less wasted cookie dough. You can take the scraps from this and re-roll them, but because there's very little fat in this cookie recipe, that's one thing that's really different between cookies we like to eat and cookies we make for our dogs. There's no butter. There's only 1/4 cup of oil.
Mhm.
So the texture of the dough is going to start to get a little shrinky. It's going to get tight. So after I roll this a few times, when I put my cookie cutter in, the dough is going to shrink down. So we want to get as much out of this first roll as we can, because these are going to be the best cookies. That doesn't mean that your later cookies won't be just as delicious. Your dog won't care. But if you're trying to make something that looks professional, then you'll want to get as much as you can out of this first roll. I'm going to squeeze in a few smaller bones here to try to make good use of all of the space that I have here. And then I'm going to show you how many of these you can pack onto a cookie sheet. One thing that is also really nice about making cookies for your dog, you don't have to worry about them spreading, because butter and shortening and those kind of fats are what cause your cut out cookies that you make for yourself to spread. You have to keep, sometimes 2 or 3 inches between each cookie. Dog cookies, you can just put them right in there, really close to each other. I've got one last shape that I want to show you, and this is a half moon. And you can bet that our little guy Half Moon loves it when I make these cookies for him.
Yes, he does.
These would actually be good to use in some of those games that Nikki just did. Some smaller shapes, especially if you didn't let your dog sample while you were baking. They might really like the extra mystery of finding them under a cup or using that. I really am dying to try that spin the bottle for our kids. Okay, so I'm going to start peeling away everything that's not a cutout cookie. And I don't know if you can see this, but I can just pick it up with my hand. I don't need any special tools. This dough is so forgiving. And I'm gonna put a few of these on the pan so you can see just how close together they can be. So you can get one whole batch baked in one session. You don't have to heat up the kitchen for a whole day.
That's awesome. And then while you're putting those on the pan, can you where do you get your ingredients? Can you tell us about that? Do you go any special place?
No, these are the ingredients that I use to cook food for us at our house. I've used whole wheat flour. I used this original recipe called for canola oil, and I just replaced it with olive oil because we're more likely to have olive oil on hand than canola. Mm-hmm. But I buy things at Sprouts. I buy things at Fry's, Albertsons. Any place where you buy food for yourself, you can find these ingredients. If you aren't sure you're going to want to make something, you don't want a 5-pound bag of flour lying around. You can go to Sprouts or any place that sells food in a bulk bin and just get a small amount.
Okay. That's good. You can just buy what you need to do that. And then, when you're looking at the recipes, there's some usual suspects as far as what you're not going to use, but there are some that are kind of tricky, like grapeseed oil is never something you would use.
Exactly. So grapeseed oil is used a lot in human cooking because it can be used at high heat and it doesn't have a flavor and it doesn't smoke. But the problem is dogs are very endangered by eating anything made from a grape, whether it's a fresh grape, a raisin, or even the oil made from the grape seeds. So you definitely want to avoid that. If you make a recipe, a lot of recipes will call for broth, either chicken broth or vegetable broth, and you want to make sure you choose a broth that doesn't have onions in it.
Okay. Onions
are not great for dogs. Chocolate. I think a lot of us know about chocolate being bad for dogs.
Mm-hmm. No chocolate. And then the one that hides a lot, especially if you're making like a peanut butter cookie, is xylitol.
Yeah, a lot of dogs love peanut butter. It's used in a lot of cookie recipes, but xylitol is often hidden in there for peanut butters that have no or low sugar. So keep a close look at the ingredients list. Watch out for xylitol. Sorry about that.
And it's also called birch sugar. Birch
sugar, I think, is what.
Yeah.
Dr. McCall was telling us last night.
Yes, she was.
Okay, so I'm going to hold up the tray.
Yeah.
And you can see how close together those are.
Oh, those are really close.
Yeah, so they don't spread at all. So you can really pack them in there. And of course, the magic of television. I'm going to show you some cookies that I made before from this same dough. This was just a plain round cookie.
Oh, that looks suspiciously like a Girl Scout cookie, but
it does. Trust me, it doesn't taste like a Girl Scout cookie. And then, I want to also show you that I've used some of the voids or all those pieces in between the cookies that I cut out. I'm going to take those off. So nothing goes to waste here. Oops.
Oh yeah, Half Moon loves those. He loves the scraps. So much loves the scraps.
That's the word I'm looking for. So I'm also going to show you these.
Okay.
It's just the tail end of the pieces that are just too stiff to roll anymore.
Yeah. You
roll it out in a little log. We all know what this looks like.
Yes, we do. Yes,
we all clean up after this a lot. I'm just going to tell you, your dog doesn't care what it looks like. If you're not a skilled baker or you don't cook a lot, it doesn't matter. Your dog is going to be so appreciative. They love us unconditionally. Even if you give them something that looks like a dried poop, they're going to be so happy with that. One thing I did do with these, I'll point out, I took this, a log that looks kind of like a poop, and then just took a knife or something and just made little indentations all down it before I put it on the cookie sheet. And that makes it easier to break it in two. So if you
cool.
want to make it easier on yourself, you know, some of the bigger pieces are hard to break, but if you pre-score it.
That's the word I was thinking. Score. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Then when you bake it, it comes out just fine. So we're going to send you, if you're interested in this recipe, I mentioned that it came from a website called Dog Treat Kitchen. We'll also be happy to send them out to you if you want to just type something in the chat.
Recipe is our keyword.
Recipes
there.
is the keyword. Okay, great.
Awesome. Well, fantastic, Kat. Thanks as always. I really appreciate you doing that for me. And the kids love the fact that now you have all that dough and nothing to do with them.
Yeah, I'll be baking it for them.
Okay. I did have one question. We did have one question that came up, and I think this is going to be kind of it's from Karen, and she wants to know about making homemade dog treats for dogs with IBD. So kind of like Helen, and cooking for a specific condition. Do you have any comment on that?
So if there's a certain ingredient that your dog doesn't eat in their regular diet, you definitely want to make sure that it's not sneaking into their treats in some way. Like, for example, with Helen, we know that she can't tolerate fish in any form. So I wouldn't make a recipe that uses tuna. There are plenty of, or salmon, there are plenty of meat-based recipes that are out there. So you just have to know what ingredients your dog can't tolerate. If they're not doing grains, there are plenty of recipes out there that use fruit and almond flour.
Yep.
A lot of drop cookies are, made that way because without a glutinous grain, like whole wheat, you don't have enough of that stretch to roll the cookie out. But there's plenty of recipes where you just take the dough, make it into a little ball, flatten it down with the fork.
Okay.
And then you can bake that.
So it almost looks like a peanut butter cookie.
Exactly.
With the little scores on the top. I like those. Yep. That's why I know what those look like. So yeah, if you have dogs, I think Karen, your dog has trouble with fat, needs a low fat treat. There are options for not using traditional fats in these cookies. Do you have any comment on that, Kath? Any alternatives?
Well, applesauce is often used as a substitute for fat in recipes for people. The difficulty there in making that substitution in dog treats is that the moisture level might be more than what you'd need. But, if your dog can tolerate liver, simply pureeing liver and putting it on a sheet and letting it bake at a low temperature in the oven will that can work as a treat too.
Yeah, that'll turn out like a leather, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you, babe. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your time, and I'll be home a little later. I'll see you there.
Oh, okay.
But thanks for doing that for us. I really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, babe. Thank you so much. Let me get back here and take Karen's photo off, and I'm going to take you off, babe. See you later.
Bye.
Okay, so that was fun. That was a new thing to add to our celebration, and now we're at the point where we are heading into our celebration of life. We started doing this with our first open house and anniversary. I think I've told this story probably 7 times. I'm going to tell it again. That coming up to our first anniversary here at the facility. Each of us who were here had all lost a dog in the last quarter of the year. So from October on, Nikki had lost at least one dog. I had lost Harley in November, who was my heart dog. Diana, who was with us at the time, she had lost a dog. I think Nikki's parents had lost a dog. Cindy Morgan, who was our trainer at the time, she had lost a dog. So it had been a very difficult winter for us. And it felt like the right thing to do to honor them, but to also take the time and the opportunity to honor those dogs that we had worked with throughout the year and to encourage folks to join us in that. So If you this is the time for you to step away. If this is too sad for you to take in, because we're going to talk a little bit about loss. If you lost your dog this year, or a pet, cat, a fish, an iguana, I don't care what it was close to you. If you'd like, please post their name in the comment section. We'd like to recognize them. This year, when we put a call out for photos, we received about 70 photos to be included in the slideshow that I'm about to show you. And those are just the dogs that we know about. It's the crew that we work with. This comes with the territory, but it doesn't make it easier. It never gets easier. But we love working with all the dogs and their pet parents that we do throughout the year. If I have misspelled your dog's name, if I didn't get your photo in time, if I've done something wrong in the video, please, that is completely my fault, and I accept the responsibility for that. It's not anyone else's on my team. I'm the one that puts this video together every year. And I'd just like to say thank you for trusting us with your pets and with your family. We know how much they mean to you, and they mean that much to us as well. So let's take a look at who we've lost over the year. that's always tough to watch. And even though I put it together and I've seen it multiple times, it still gets me. And I miss every every single one of those dogs. And we enjoyed working with them. And we found out this morning that we lost one more. We lost Brooke this morning. We'll miss her as well. But as much pain is involved in working with and losing the dog, and having less contact with the pet parent as well. That's part of the gig, and that's part of why we do what we do, because we really, really want to help them have the best quality of life that they can, and we love working with you to make that possible for them. So in that spirit, if you have a drink nearby you, whether it's an adult beverage or just a glass of water, let's just give them a toast, okay? These are the ones we've loved and lost, and who's left an animal-shaped hole in our heart that another dog's going to walk right through. All right, here's to them. Okay, this is what we do. This is how we roll here. We love them, and we roll forward, and in that spirit, we've got some events coming up that we would love to have you be part of. The closest one is tomorrow. We are going to have a mobility walk with the folks at Meet Me at Maynard's, and they've been kind enough to enjoy it, to invite us to walk with them. And we'd love to have you there. It's going to be a little cool, so make sure you dress appropriately. We are going to meet at 5:15 at the Cup, which is the little cafe that's on the backside of Hotel Congress. We're going to meet there around 5:15, and then we're going to take off on our walk at about 5:30, and we are going to walk from the Cup to the Fox Theater and back, which is about 0.6 of a mile. Plenty of places along the way to sit down and rest if your dog doesn't want to go the whole way, but we would love to have you there. We'll come back, finish, have some appetizers and some community and good fun. And so we'd love to have you there. Second one coming up is we have a special opportunity for folks in town. If you've ever heard of the dog photographer Amanda Jones, she's going to be in Tucson, and she does some amazing work. You've probably seen her work and you don't know it. If you've ever seen an issue of Bark magazine, you've probably seen one of her amazing covers. She's going to be in town. We'll post a link up here really quick that'll show you sign up. You can get some more details about that. That's January 29th. And finally, the big event for the spring for us is the Pets of Pima Parade, which is February 19th. That's a Sunday. And we really, really want to represent in the community. We're looking to raise $10,000 this year, $20 at a time. It doesn't matter to me if it's $2, $20, $200, $2,000. I don't care. We're going to raise some money for the clinic dogs at PAC. And we're going to walk in solidarity down that parade route down 4th Avenue. This will be televised as well. There's talk of there being floats involved. So this is going to be pretty amazing. So keep an eye on our Facebook page, the Friends of PAC Facebook page. And also we've formed a team. So the link is in the comment. We'd love to have you join our team and fundraise for us. Like I said, even if it's $10, $5, doesn't matter to me. Every little bit counts. That $10 may pay for some medication for a dog in the clinic, and that's great. But we'd love to have you support us here. And just know that we're here. We are happy to be useful in our community and helpful. And we're here for you too. I consider all of our dogs and all of our pet parents that we see, you're all part of the family. So if you all need anything that we can help you with, please let us know. But we've had a great morning. This has been a good Sunday. So we appreciate your support and all the things you do for us and trusting us to work with your dog. So thank you. Get out there, have a good rest of your Sunday, and we'll hopefully see you soon. All right, take care, everybody.